Ma'am, this lounge is for verified clients only. The teller's voice sliced through the quiet like a paper cut, small but sharp enough to sting. The air in the private banking hall didn't move, it just tightened.
She's telling the truth.
Across the polished counter, Ava Sinclair didn't blink. Her tailored black suit absorbed the light. Her calm felt rehearsed, like a silence she had practiced for years. The teller, a middle-aged man in a pressed vest, sighed with irritation and flipped her ID over as if it weighed too much. Then, with a dismissive flick, he tossed it onto the counter. It landed face down. A soft sound, yet somehow louder than everything else in the room. Behind her, a client glanced up from his espresso. A security guard shifted his stance, curious but unmoved. The marble floors reflected everyone's place and who stood where, who was meant to belong. Ava simply said, "Run my name." Her tone was even, unbothered, the kind of calm that makes other people nervous. But the teller only smirked. "We've seen fake IDs before. Happens all the time." He didn't whisper it. He wanted others to hear. In the background, a young associate froze mid-step, eyes darting between them. You could almost feel the question behind her stare. Is he really doing this? Ava's reflection in the counter looked still, but her fingers had tensed just slightly. She'd seen this before. At 24, a clerk had shredded her first business loan application because she didn't look like someone with collateral. Now, decades later, the tone was the same. Only the marble had changed. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Ava Sinclair. The teller leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "You people always act like money makes you special." Ava's jaw shifted slightly. Not anger, but precision. "No," she said quietly. "Character does." The woman behind the teller, the assistant manager, looked up sharply. Something in Ava's tone unsettled her, as if a storm had just entered the lobby without making a sound. The ID still lay on the counter between them, a small, silent battlefield. And in that golden light, it wasn't a card anymore. It was a mirror, showing exactly who each of them really was. The room had returned to quiet, but it wasn't peace. It was that kind of silence that follows after a disrespect, heavy, suspended, aware of itself. Ava Sinclair didn't pick up the ID. She let it rest there like evidence. The teller turned away, pretending to type something into the terminal that clearly wasn't moving. His jaw was still tight, his pride even tighter. At the far end of the hall, sunlight spilled through tall glass panels, pooling over the marble floor like liquid gold. Every surface reflected a world that looked fair, but wasn't. Ava's eyes moved slowly, memorizing the space. The mahogany desks, the gold-framed certificates, the words integrity, trust, excellence printed on the wall in serif font. She'd built banks with slogans like that before. She'd also bought them and shut them down. A quiet ping vibrated from her smartwatch. A message blinked across the screen. "Summit Holdings Board awaiting your confirmation. 7B merger, final sign-off." The irony almost made her smile. The very institution now doubting her identity was hours away from being absorbed by her company. The young associate, the one who had paused mid-step earlier, still lingered nearby. Her badge read Mia Larkin, Client Relations Assistant. Mia's eyes flicked between the teller and Ava, uncertainty written all over her face. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. "She's on the schedule." "Private meeting with corporate investments?" The teller cut her off with a glare. "Not your concern, Mia." He turned back to Ava. "Security will handle it." Mia froze. Then quietly she whispered to Ava, "I'm sorry, ma'am, I think they just don't recognize you." Ava met her gaze, steady, kind, but unreadable. "They will." Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a notification, it was a call. She didn't answer yet. She was letting the moment stretch. The longer the silence, the louder their assumptions became. In that pause, her memory drifted, not far, just 10 years back. A luxury conference in New York. She had walked into a boardroom filled with men who mistook her for the assistant. They'd handed her the coffee order list. She'd taken it without a word. Then, an hour later, she had chaired the meeting that decided which of their companies survived the fiscal year. The memory wasn't pain anymore. It was data. Back in the present, the teller finally said, You can't just walk in here expecting access to executive banking. You'd be surprised what I can access, Ava replied softly. That calm again. Too calm. The kind that warned people without raising alarms. The security guard approached now, cautious but curious. Is there a problem here? The teller gestured toward Ava. Unverified client. Possible identity issue. Mia tried to interject again, but he waved her off. We're fine. Ava turned slightly, her posture unbothered. She tapped her smartwatch, the screen lighting up with quiet authority. I'm sure you are, she said, for now. The guard hesitated, sensing something he couldn't name. Mia glanced at Ava's watch, saw a corporate seal she recognized from an internal newsletter, and her breath caught. Wait, Mia whispered. Summit Holdings. Ava didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her silence did the talking. The teller exhaled, frustrated. Ma'am, if you don't leave, you'll have to what? Ava asked, voice soft as silk but sharp as glass. Refuse service to the woman signing your merger? The words hung there, still warm from her lips. Calm, factual, devastating. The teller blinked, confusion flickering into fear. And for the first time that morning, the entire room felt smaller than the woman standing in it. The tension didn't break. It multiplied. The teller froze for half a beat, staring at Ava as if trying to compute what he'd just heard. Signing? Our merger? He repeated, his laugh brittle. Right. From the far corridor, a woman's heels clicked against the marble. Sharp, fast, deliberate. Everyone in the private banking hall turned. It was Elaine Porter, the branch operations manager, in a tailored cream blazer that said control. What's going on here? The teller straightened like a soldier. Unverified guest, ma'am. She's refusing to leave the executive section. Elaine's gaze slid to Ava, one sweeping glance head to toe. A faint smile, polite on the surface, condescending underneath. I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. This area is for high-tier clients only. Ava's voice stayed calm. I'm aware. That's why I'm here. Elaine stepped closer, resting one manicured hand on the counter. Then I'll need to see updated verification, wealth management records, account history. Something beyond an ID, since apparently that's disputed. She said the last word like it had a bad taste. The teller smirked, encouraged. Mia, the young associate, shifted uncomfortably in the background. Ms. Porter, she's on the schedule. I saw her name. Mia, Elaine snapped. Do I look like I need your confirmation? Silence. Again, that same silence that wasn't peace. It was judgment wrapped in etiquette. Ava finally reached for her ID. She picked it up slowly, wiped the counter dust from its surface, and slid it back toward Elaine. You'll want to look at the corporate division on that card. Elaine frowned, turning it over. The logo caught the light. Summit Holdings Group. Her expression didn't change, but her breath did. A flicker of something crossed her eyes. Recognition, maybe denial, before she placed the card back down. Anyone can print a logo, she said carefully. And until we verify, protocol applies. Security. The guard, already uneasy, hesitated. Mia looked from him to Ava, then whispered, She's not lying. Ava turned her head slightly. Her eyes landed on Mia, soft but direct. Thank you, she said. Then to Elaine, You're calling security on the one person your CEO should have welcomed. Elaine's tone hardened. You're threatening staff now? Ava almost smiled. No. I'm warning the system that's about to collapse under your name. The words were precise. Delivered not to humiliate, but to predict. The teller scoffed, voice louder than needed. This is ridiculous. We're wasting time. She's clearly not. He stopped when Ava tapped her watch again. A soft ping echoed from the marble walls. A notification appeared, visible only to her. Protocol 7, standby. Elaine leaned forward. What was that? Documentation, Ava replied. Everything that's been said here, already logged, already transmitted. Mia gasped quietly. The guard stepped back. Elaine tried to steady her voice. You can't record in a private facility. Oh, I'm not recording, Ava said. You are? Every word you've spoken is on your internal system. You triggered it the moment you called this a protocol dispute. That landed. Elaine's face stiffened. The teller swallowed hard. They all knew internal systems auto-log escalation phrases for compliance reviews. Ava stepped back, not out of retreat, but precision. Like she was giving the room one last chance to breathe. "You've mistaken patience for weakness," she said quietly. "That's your first mistake. Believing it will last, that's your second." Mia's voice cracked the silence. "Ms. Sinclair." "Yes? What happens now?" Ava looked toward the frosted glass doors leading to the executive offices. "Now?" Her tone turned soft, almost kind. "Now we let them show everyone what bias looks like in a bank built on trust." The security guard glanced at Elaine, uncertain, waiting for orders. Elaine didn't give them. For the first time, her authority looked smaller than the woman standing across from her. The room didn't move, but everything inside it shifted. Power, perception, air, all rearranging themselves around one woman who refused to raise her voice. Ava Sinclair stood still, both hands resting lightly on the marble counter. She didn't need to glare. Her calm was confrontation. Elaine Porter, the manager, pretended to check something on her tablet. Anything to break eye contact. The teller stared at the floor. Even the gold letters behind the counter, integrity, trust, excellence, seemed to mock themselves in silence. Mia Larkin, the young associate, looked from one face to another, unsure who she was supposed to be loyal to anymore. Ava finally exhaled, slow, deliberate, measured. The sound was almost inaudible, yet it loosened the room like a quiet detonation. "Ms. Porter," she said gently, "I'm going to stand here until you decide whether this moment defines you or destroys you." Elaine's lips parted, but no words came out. That single line, calm as glass, left nowhere to hide. The security guard, trying to help, spoke up. "Ma'am, maybe if we all just take a seat—" "No," Elaine interrupted. "This woman is obstructing service." The guard looked confused. This woman had said less than anyone here. Ava didn't respond. She let the silence stretch, long enough for discomfort to bloom into guilt. People walking through the main hall began to slow down. Quiet glances, whispered guesses. Phones lifted discreetly. The teller shifted his weight. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it." Ava turned her gaze to him. He stopped talking. "You threw away my ID," she said softly.
That was your meaning. No anger.
No tremor, just fact. "Do you treat every unfamiliar face like a threat, or just the ones that make you uncomfortable?" The question wasn't for him. It was for the building. You could feel it land in every corner, a truth too heavy to dodge. Elaine tried to reassert control. "Ms. Sinclair, let's remain professional." "I am." That was all Ava said, and somehow it sounded like authority itself. A faint memory flickered behind her eyes. An older banker once told her, "Stay composed and they'll mistake you for weak." He'd been wrong. Composure was the weapon no one saw coming. Her smartwatch pulsed again, a soft vibration, discreet. She glanced at it briefly. Protocol 7, active recording, external verification pending. Every word in this room was now part of an audit trail that would reach corporate headquarters within minutes. Ava didn't smile, but something in her expression shifted. Serenity sharpened into control. She looked at Mia. "Do you know what happens when a system built on trust loses it?" Mia shook her head. "It doesn't collapse," Ava said. "It corrodes." Mia swallowed hard. She understood, and she wasn't the only one. The guard took half a step back, instinctively respectful now. Elaine cleared her throat, voice thinner than before. "Mrs. Sinclair, please. We can resolve this quietly." "That's exactly what I'm doing," Ava replied. "Quietly." And with that, she picked up her phone and pressed one button. A distant chime echoed from the teller's computer, subtle but unmistakable. Elaine frowned. "What was that?" "Access verification," Ava said. "For internal personnel." The teller's monitor flickered. Then a message appeared in red letters. "Account flagged. Corporate hold." He stared at it, speechless. Ava turned slightly toward him. "You wanted verification," she said softly. There it is, no shouting. No triumph. Just truth unfolding with surgical precision. The silent storm had arrived, not with thunder but with calm. And for the first time, everyone in the room understood that Ava Sinclair wasn't waiting for justice. She was it. At first, no one dared to move. The teller's computer screen still glowed red. Account flagged. Corporate hold. A simple line of text, yet it shifted the balance of the entire room. Ava Sinclair hadn't said another word. She didn't need to. The system had just spoken for her. Mia Larkin felt her pulse racing. She'd seen corporate audits before, but never like this. Never live. She looked at Ava and realized this wasn't coincidence. This was strategy. Across the room, a middle-aged client in a gray suit whispered to his wife, "What's going on?" "Something big," she murmured. "I think they messed with the wrong person." Another client, a young man scrolling on his phone, quietly started recording. The camera caught the teller's pale face, the blinking red monitor, the woman in black standing motionless at the center of it all. The caption he typed read, "Bank humiliates wrong woman. Watch what happens next." Elaine Porter tried to regain command of the room. "Turn those phones off," she ordered. "This is private property." But it was too late. People weren't listening anymore. They were witnessing. Ava's eyes met Mia's, steady and unafraid. "How long have you worked here?" she asked. 3 years, Mia said softly. "First job out of college. And in those 3 years," Ava continued, "how many times have you seen someone like me treated as if they don't belong?" Mia hesitated, then whispered, "Too many." That was the moment the atmosphere changed again. It wasn't just tension now. It was reckoning. The security guard cleared his throat, uneasy. "Ms. Porter, maybe we should just verify the ID." "Don't tell me how to manage my branch," Elaine snapped. But her voice wavered. From the corner, the man filming spoke up. "You can stop this, lady. Just apologize and check her name." Elaine glared at him, but the damage was done. The whisper had turned into sound. The sound into murmurs. The murmurs into a pulse that filled the golden hall. Ava finally spoke. "Don't apologize to me," she said quietly. "Apologize to your own standards." The words landed harder than any threat. Even the tellers at the back desks had stopped typing. Phones vibrated with messages. Something's happening at the executive floor. Mia looked at Ava, her voice trembling. "Why didn't you stop it sooner?" "You could have just told them who you were." "Because," Ava said, "if I correct them, they'll forget. But if I let them reveal themselves, they'll remember." The man with the phone nodded slowly. "Still filming, that's powerful," he whispered to the camera. Ava turned slightly, her tone almost reflective. "Power isn't loud. It's documented." The line echoed through the hall, and through every phone mic capturing it. Elaine's tablet vibrated suddenly. "Incoming corporate notice." Her face drained of color. She tapped it open. "Branch audit triggered. Corporate oversight team en route." Someone upstairs had seen the alert. Someone with real authority. Ava's gaze remained calm, but her voice carried weight now, steady and slow. "You see, Ms. Porter, I don't need to shout or threaten. All I have to do is wait. Systems reveal themselves when you let them run." Mia swallowed hard, standing beside her now instead of behind the counter. For the first time, she wasn't just a bystander. She was part of the line that divided right from wrong. The clients in the lobby began to record openly. The guard looked lost between orders and conscience. Elaine's authority had thinned to transparency. And in the center of it all, Ava Sinclair, silent, unmoved, became the gravity that everything orbited around. It wasn't a confrontation anymore. It was a moment of evidence, and somewhere upstairs, an email was being opened by a regional director, time-stamped, geo-verified, and attached to the incident now spreading across every corner of the bank. The air inside the banking hall thickened, as if every molecule was holding its breath. Phones were still up. The quiet hum of recording filled the golden space like static. Elaine Porter could feel her control slipping, one finger at a time. Her career had been built on order, hierarchy, protocol, perception, and now a woman she didn't recognize was tearing that order apart simply by standing still. "Everyone, stop filming," she barked. Her voice cracked on the last word. No one stopped. The teller stared at his monitor, the red corporate hold notice still glowing like an accusation. He whispered to Elaine, "It's not clearing. I can't unlock it." "Then override it," she hissed. "I can't." That admission felt like a siren. All eyes turned toward Ava Sinclair, the calm center of the storm. She still hadn't raised her voice. Her presence alone was shifting the hierarchy of the room. Elaine's chest tightened. The pressure to reassert dominance rose like heat under her blazer. "You think you can walk in here and embarrass my staff?" she snapped. "You don't even have proof you belong in this building." Ava tilted her head slightly, voice low and steady. "Belonging is an interesting word. You use it like it's permission. I use it like it's fact. The line hit like a clean strike at no noise, just precision. Somewhere near the back, someone whispered, "Damn!" Mia flinched as Elaine slammed her tablet onto the counter. Enough with the theatrics. Security, remove her from this area. The guard didn't move. His jaw worked silently, caught between policy and morality. "Ma'am," he said carefully. "Corporate just sent a hold notice on our system too." "What?" Elaine blinked. "It says internal compliance review initiated." That was the breaking point. Not the words, the realization. The system itself had turned against her. "This is ridiculous," Elaine snapped. "You're staging some kind of—" She stopped mid-sentence when Ava's smartwatch lit up. A faint glow across her wrist, then a soft tone. Audit mode active. Every teller terminal flickered at once. A soft blue hue washed over the screens, and not dramatic, just subtle, surgical. Mia gasped. "That's the oversight code." "I've only seen that during internal investigations." Elaine's voice rose, desperation edging out reason. "You don't have that authority." Ava's eyes lifted to meet hers. Calm, precise. "You said it yourself. Verification requires proof. Now you're living it." Elaine's tone turned sharp, cutting through the murmurs. "You know what your problem is? You people walk in here thinking you can buy respect." The room went still. "You people." Two words that never echo quietly. Mia's face fell. The guard looked away. The man filming whispered, "Did she just—" Ava didn't flinch. Her stillness absorbed the slur like a wall absorbs sound. "You've just confirmed why this moment exists," she said softly, "and why you'll never outlast it." Elaine's voice faltered. She knew, even before the silence deepened, that she had gone too far. The teller's face turned pale. His hand hovered over his mouth. Ava looked around slowly, the gold decor, the marble, the cameras. "All this luxury," she said, "built to hide something ugly. But truth always finds its reflection." Her phone buzzed once. A corporate ping. Audit confirmation complete. Compliance team dispatched. Elaine's tablet vibrated with the same message. She stared at it in disbelief. Mia exhaled shakily. The guard whispered almost to himself, "They're on their way." Ava nodded. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them see what respect looks like when it walks in unannounced." The teller stepped back from his station. Elaine's authority, once framed by gold light and silence, now hung like smoke, visible but gone, and for the first time that day, every person in that hall understood. The woman they had dismissed wasn't fighting for validation. She was watching justice begin, and in real time. For a moment no one spoke. Silence hovered like glass, beautiful, fragile, seconds away from shattering. Then Elaine Porter broke it. Her voice, once steady and composed, had turned brittle. "Give me that ID," she snapped, stepping forward. The teller hesitated, glancing toward Ava Sinclair. "Ma'am, maybe we should just—" "Now," Elaine barked, the word echoing too loud for a place meant for whispers. The teller flinched, then reached across the counter, snatching the ID from in front of Ava. The plastic card scraped against the marble, a small sound, but it cut through the room like a scream. "This card is property of the bank during verification," Elaine declared. "Until we confirm your identity, you'll wait outside." Her tone was official, but her eyes betrayed something else. Fear masked as control. Ava didn't move. She simply tilted her head. "You're seizing private identification without authorization," she said quietly. "Do you understand what that means?" Elaine scoffed. "It means I'm doing my job." "No," Ava replied. "It means you just turned a mistake into evidence." Mia gasped under her breath. She looked at the teller, whose hands were trembling slightly as he held the ID. "Ms. Porter," she whispered, "we're not supposed to confiscate." "Enough," Elaine snapped. "Security, escort her out." The guard didn't move. His radio crackled faintly, but his eyes stayed fixed on Ava. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "corporate's on the line. They're asking what's happening here." "Tell them it's under control," Elaine demanded. "I don't think it is." A ripple of murmurs spread across the lobby. Someone whispered, "She just took her ID." Another voice answered, "That's illegal." Phones tilted higher. Every camera now pointed at Elaine's trembling hands. Ava's voice remained low, deliberate. "You're digging deeper," she said. And you still don't know who's watching. Elaine slammed the ID onto the counter, exasperated. You think this little act of defiance impresses anyone? You don't belong here. You never did. Those words, final, dismissive, hung heavy. Mia flinched as if struck. The guard lowered his gaze. The man recording whispered into his phone. She really said that out loud. Ava didn't look angry. She looked resolute. She took one step closer, calm but commanding. Belonging isn't something you grant, she said softly. It's something you fail to recognize. Elaine opened her mouth to respond, but a sharp chime cut her off. Every computer terminal in the room flickered simultaneously. The gold screensaver, integrity, trust, excellence, vanished, replaced by a corporate seal, Summit Holdings Compliance Lockdown. The teller gasped. It's locked, all systems locked. What? Elaine turned, her voice shaking. I can't access anything. It's requesting executive override. Mia looked at Ava. That's you, isn't it? She whispered. Ava didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her stillness said everything. Elaine turned back, desperate now. Who are you? Ava met her gaze. Level, calm, certain. The reason your branch just stopped breathing. The words weren't shouted. They were delivered like a verdict. The security guard's radio came alive again. Static, then a clipped voice. Audit team arriving. Corporate directive, preserve scene integrity. Elaine froze. Her fingers tightened around the ID as if holding on could reverse what she'd done. You set this up. No, Ava replied. You did. I just gave you the room. She turned slightly, her gaze sweeping across the crowd. Everyone watching, she said evenly. Remember this moment. Because what you're seeing isn't power, it's fear wearing a name tag. Cameras flashed. Phones trembled in hands, suddenly aware they were capturing history, not gossip. And as the golden light from the lobby chandelier shifted across the floor, the reflection of Ava's face crossed the words engraved on the counter. Integrity. Trust. Excellence. The irony was no longer subtle. It was a headline waiting to be written. The sound of the lockdown alert rippled through the marble hall. Soft, digital, irreversible. Monitors froze mid-screen. Teller drawers stopped responding. The building itself seemed to hold its breath, as if realizing it had chosen the wrong side. Ava Sinclair stood still, the glow from her smartwatch washing faint light across her wrist. The symbol on the screen pulsed. Summit Holdings Internal Oversight. Live feed active. Maya whispered. It's broadcasting. Ava nodded slightly. Every branch action. Every word. Every second. Elaine Porter finally found her voice, trembling between anger and disbelief. You can't just hijack our system. I didn't, Ava replied calmly. I designed it. The teller dropped his hands from the keyboard, staring at her. You designed this? Ava's gaze didn't shift. Summit built this security protocol after we acquired Lydian Bank in 2018. It was meant to expose ethical breaches before lawsuits had to. Her eyes moved to Elaine. And today you triggered it. Perfectly. For the first time, Elaine stepped back. The marble beneath her heels suddenly felt too loud. This isn't possible, she whispered. You're bluffing. Am I? Ava asked softly. Then call your regional director. Ask why your system just locked at exactly 11:27 a.m. Elaine's hand shook as she tapped her tablet. It refused to unlock. The display flashed. Access denied, under review. A low murmur spread through the staff behind her. She's connected to corporate? No, she is corporate. Wait, that's the Summit CEO. Whispers became realization. Realization became panic. The young man filming whispered into his phone. She's not just a client. She's the CEO of them. Ava's tone remained even, her breathing slow, like someone conducting a symphony no one else could hear. This system doesn't punish people. It reveals them. That's why I don't shout, Ms. Porter, I wait. Mia swallowed hard, eyes glassy. I've never seen a lockdown trigger in real life. You have now, Ava said gently. You'll remember it the next time someone looks at you the way she looked at me. Elaine's desperation cracked open. You set me up. You came here for this. Ava's voice stayed level, not defensive, not cruel, just final. No, I came here for a signature. You turned it into a lesson. The guard's radio buzzed again, clearer this time. Audit transport arriving. Corporate team ETA, 2 minutes. Everyone heard it. 2 minutes. Elaine's face drained of color. The teller whispered, "We're all done." Ava turned her wrist slightly, speaking into the thin mic on her smartwatch. "Nia," she said softly. A calm voice responded instantly. "Yes, Ms. Sinclair." "Confirm cancellation of the merger. Effective immediately. Freeze pending accounts with Sterling Division." "Understood." Confirmation logged. Elaine's knees almost buckled. "You're canceling the deal?" "That's billions." 7, Ava corrected. "And I don't do business with institutions that mistake bias for policy." The entire room was silent again. But this time it wasn't fear that silenced them. It was awe. The young man filming lowered his phone slowly. "She just canceled a $7 billion merger," he whispered. In one sentence. Ava turned to Mia, her expression softening for the first time. "Document everything," she said. "Not for revenge, for reform." Mia nodded, wiping the corner of her eye. "Ms. Porter," Ava said finally, her voice steady and almost merciful. "You have 30 seconds before corporate steps through that door. Use them wisely." Elaine stared at her, the ID card still in her shaking hand, then at the crowd, then down at her reflection in the marble floor. Her own power, once loud and sure, had vanished beneath a single woman's silence. Ava looked toward the tall glass doors at the end of the hall. The sunlight beyond them had shifted, brighter now, almost white. It hit the gold lettering above the counter, and for a split second the word integrity glowed so fiercely it hurt to look at. She whispered, almost to herself, "Justice doesn't need noise, it just needs timing." And with that the doors opened, and the sound of approaching heels echoed like judgment made real. The glass doors opened with a muted hiss, and 3 people in dark suits stepped inside. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Their presence carried the weight of confirmation, the kind that ends arguments, not begins them. Ava Sinclair didn't turn around. She knew the sound of authority when it walked. The man in front, tall, gray-templed, badge clipped to his breast pocket, approached the counter. His voice was calm but carried a depth that made everyone listen. "Elaine Porter," he said evenly. "I'm Daniel Ross, Senior Compliance Officer for Summit Holdings. This branch is now under internal review." Elaine's breath caught. Her tablet slipped from her hands, clattering against the marble. I didn't." "Don't," Daniel interrupted gently. "It's all recorded." The teller stepped back, his face pale, whispering, "She's the CEO, isn't she?" Daniel's eyes flicked toward Ava, then back to the staff. "Miss Sinclair is not only the CEO," he said clearly. "She's the architect of the ethics system you just triggered." The sentence struck like lightning, clean, bright, and final. Gasps rippled through the room. Mia covered her mouth, eyes wide, tears threatening to fall. The guard exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath since morning. Even the clients recording on their phones froze mid-frame, realizing they weren't watching a scandal. They were witnessing a reckoning. Elaine's knees seemed to soften. "You can't just..." Ava turned finally, her movement slow and deliberate. Her expression was calm, but her gaze carried a gravity that stripped pretense bare. "I can," she said softly, "because the board authorized this audit months ago. Today was an observation test, and your reaction gave me every answer I needed." Her voice didn't rise, yet it filled the space completely. The words moved like a wave, carrying both power and restraint. Elaine's lips parted in disbelief. "You set this up?" "No," Ava said. "I set up a chance for growth. You chose humiliation." Mia stepped closer, voice trembling but firm. "Ms. Sinclair, thank you." "Don't thank me," Ava said gently. "Just remember what this moment cost and why it can't happen again." Daniel glanced toward the cameras still filming. "We'll need to clear this area for corporate review." "Leave them," Ava said. "People should see what accountability looks like when it walks in quietly." Elaine looked down at the ID still in her hand, the one she'd confiscated, the one that now felt like a live wire. She tried to place it back on the counter, but her fingers trembled too much. It slipped, hit the marble, and spun once before settling face up. The embossed name gleamed under the chandelier: Ava Sinclair, Chief Executive Officer, Summit Holdings Group. The sound of it resting was louder than any apology could ever be. Ava bent down, picked it up with quiet grace, and looked at Elaine. You didn't fail because you doubted me, she said. You failed because you needed me to prove you wrong. Elaine's eyes filled with tears she couldn't swallow. The man filming whispered to his camera, "She's everything they said she was, calm, ruthless." "Right," Daniel nodded at his team. "Proceed with personnel suspension protocols." Two compliance officers stepped forward. Elaine didn't fight it. She just stood there silent as her badge light blinked red. Access revoked. Ava turned to the crowd, her voice once again even and deliberate. "Justice isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about recognition. You can't fix what you refuse to see." Every phone in the room stayed lifted, yet for once no one said a word. They just watched. The silence no longer heavy but cleansing. Ava slid her ID back into her wallet. "Let's begin the audit," she said. And as she walked toward the conference suite, the word CEO glinted against the glass door, reflected in 100 quiet stares of awakening. The gold of the banking hall didn't shine the same anymore. It still glittered, but now it looked like gilt, a thin gloss over something cracked beneath. Elaine Porter stood frozen as two compliance officers approached. Her face had gone pale, lips trembling, voice reduced to a whisper. "Please, Ms. Sinclair, I didn't mean—" Ava Sinclair looked at her, not angry, not even disappointed. "Just quiet. Meaning doesn't erase damage," she said softly. "You taught everyone in this room what your instincts look like. That lesson will outlive this apology." One of the officers scanned Elaine's badge. The light on her ID blinked from green to red. Her access was gone. Her career, the one built on politeness and power, ended with a color change and a click. The teller beside her sank into his chair, pale and shaking. He muttered, "I didn't know who she was." Ava turned slightly. "That's the point," she replied. "You shouldn't need to." A hush fell again. The clients who'd been recording lowered their phones, realizing they were no longer spectators. They were witnesses. What they'd seen could not be edited, could not be explained away. Mia Larkin wiped her eyes, trying not to let the tears fall. She'd worked under Elaine for 3 years, believing she had to shrink herself to survive. Now for the first time she stood taller. "Mrs. Sinclair," she said quietly, "I want to do better. I don't want this place to stay like this." Ava nodded, the faintest hint of warmth in her expression. Then start by remembering how it looked when the truth walked in. That's where change begins. Across the room, Daniel Ross, the compliance officer, tapped his earpiece. "Corporate confirmation received," he announced. "Audit expansion authorized. This branch and all related accounts under investigation." The words hung like a verdict. Elaine's hands shook. "You don't have to destroy everything." Ava met her eyes. "I'm not destroying. I'm disinfecting." The sentence cut through the silence like cold air through glass. The teller buried his face in his hands. The guard, still standing near the door, finally spoke, his voice low, almost reverent. "Ma'am, I saw everything. They treated you like you didn't belong. I'm sorry." Ava looked at him. "You don't owe me an apology. You owe it to your uniform to remember what fairness looks like." A flicker of shame, then pride, crossed the guard's face. He straightened his posture. "Yes, ma'am." In the background, the luxury music that had been playing quietly over the speakers, a soft piano loop meant to soothe clients, had stopped mid-note. The silence that replaced it was far more honest. The man who'd been filming earlier lowered his phone and whispered to Mia. She didn't just expose them. She rewired the whole room. Mia nodded, still stunned. "No," she said. She reminded it what integrity looks like. Elaine's voice broke again. "I've given 20 years to this bank." "Then you should have known better in mine at 1, Ava replied. "Loyalty means nothing if it's blind." Daniel's team began escorting Elaine toward the back office. As she walked away, heads turned, eyes followed. Not with cruelty, but with realization. Ava stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by the quiet hum of truth doing its work. She took one breath, deep, steady. The storm had passed, but the air was changed forever. Before leaving, she turned to Mia once more. "You'll oversee internal ethics training," she said, "starting Monday." Mia blinked, shocked. "Me?" "Yes, you saw everything and you spoke when no one else did." "That's leadership." Mia's lips trembled, then formed a grateful smile. "I won't waste it." "I know," Ava said. As Ava walked toward the door, sunlight poured through the tall windows, clean, white, mercilessly bright. It hit the polished marble, washing away the gold. What remained wasn't luxury. It was truth. And behind her, the words etched on the wall seemed to mean something again. Integrity, trust, excellence. The glass doors to the executive suite opened with a low, hydraulic sigh. The sound felt ceremonial, the threshold between arrogance and accountability. Ava Sinclair stepped forward, heels soft against the marble. Behind her trailed silence, obedience, and consequence. The audit team followed, scanning terminals, logging timestamps, sealing statements. Every motion felt like justice writing itself in real time. Daniel Ross, the compliance officer, stood beside her. We've secured the internal data. Ms. Sinclair, corporate has approved your discretion for final judgment. Ava nodded slowly. Her gaze swept across the grand lobby, the same room where she'd been humiliated less than an hour ago. It didn't look powerful anymore. It looked small. Elaine Porter sat on a nearby bench, wrists clasped tightly together, waiting. The teller stood behind her, pale, remorseful, eyes red. Mia and the guard waited near the entrance, silent witnesses to the unraveling. Ava's voice was calm when she spoke. This branch will close for a 30-day audit. All senior staff are suspended pending investigation. Operations will resume under new leadership. Her tone didn't rise when it didn't need to. The verdict carried its own gravity. Elaine's eyes flicked up. Please, I've built this team. Don't erase everything I've done. Ava studied her for a moment, the fragility, the fear. I'm not erasing you, Ms. Porter, she said quietly. I'm documenting you. A small sound escaped Elaine's throat, part sob, part disbelief. The teller started to speak, but Ava lifted one hand, silencing him gently. You mistook compliance for compassion, she continued. You built a culture that confuses politeness with ethics. That ends today. Daniel took a step forward. We'll initiate staff review protocols. No, Ava said, stopping him. Mia will. Mia froze. Me? You saw the truth. You spoke up when it wasn't safe. That's leadership, Ava said. And leadership must begin with conscience. Not comfort, Mia nodded, her voice shaking. Yes, ma'am. Ava's attention returned to the staff. This place will reopen, she said, but not as a monument to wealth. It will stand as proof that integrity can't be delegated. It has to live in the people who work here. The guard, standing straighter now, murmured under his breath, Amen to that. Elaine lifted her head once more, voice breaking. Why do this publicly? You could have handled it quietly. Ava met her eyes, and the calm in her tone landed heavier than any shout. Because quiet is how injustice survives. The room fell completely still. Even the hum of air conditioning felt distant, respectful. Ava took a slow breath, then turned toward Daniel. Send corporate notice. Merge cancellation stands. Asset redirection to the community fund. Daniel hesitated. That's $70 million in redirected bonuses. Yes, Ava said. Now it's called restitution. A stunned silence filled the hall. Mia covered her mouth, whispering, She's giving it back. Ava looked toward her. No, she said. I'm giving it meaning. One by one, the employees lowered their eyes, not in fear, but in understanding. The judgment wasn't cruelty. It was correction. Ava stepped closer to Elaine, lowering her voice so only she could hear. I don't need you to apologize, she said. I need you to remember the sound of your own voice when you thought I was nobody. Because that sound will echo the next time you decide who belongs. Elaine nodded, tears streaming silently. Ava turned to leave. The glass doors reflected her image, centered, composed, sovereign. Every step felt like a closing statement. Before she exited, she paused at the inscription on the wall. Integrity, trust, excellence. Her hand brushed the words. Let's make them mean something again. Then she walked into the light. Outside the bank, the city pulsed like nothing had happened. Taxis streaming by, traffic lights blinking indifferently, the hum of ordinary life continuing. But inside that lobby, something fundamental had changed. Ava Sinclair paused at the top of the marble steps before stepping out into the sunlight. For a heartbeat, the reflection of the glass doors caught her image, poised, composed, unbent, and behind it, a room forever rewritten. Inside, Mia Larkin was still standing by the counter, papers in her trembling hands. She looked around at her co-workers, stunned faces, bowed heads, and realized the silence wasn't fear anymore. It was awareness. You okay? The guard asked softly. Yeah, she said, voice steady. For the first time, I think we all are. The cameras that had once recorded humiliation were now pointed at history. Clips were already spreading online. Short, shaky, but powerful. A calm black woman dismantles a billion-dollar system without raising her voice. Hashtags bloomed. But Ava didn't look back to see them. She never performed for applause. Her justice worked in silence, and silence had already done its job. She stepped onto the sidewalk, the sound of her heels merging with the rhythm of the city. Daniel Ross followed behind her, carrying a tablet, still catching his breath. Mrs. Sinclair, he said carefully. Press outlets are already asking for a statement. Ava's reply came like a quiet chord. Low, deliberate, resolute. Then tell them this. Dignity doesn't need a microphone. It needs witnesses. Daniel nodded. He understood. He always did. The chauffeur opened the door to a sleek black car waiting at the curb. Before Ava entered, she glanced back through the glass. Mia stood inside, now surrounded by staff, answering questions, giving instructions, guiding them. The next generation of integrity, beginning before the dust had even settled. Ava smiled, a faint curve of purpose. Good, she murmured. Let it start there. She stepped into the car. As it pulled away, the reflection of the bank's gold signage blurred into the city skyline. Summit Holdings dissolving into sunlight. For a brief moment, it looked like the name itself was being rewritten by the light. Inside the car, her phone vibrated. A message from the board. Merger cancellation confirmed. Media impact contained. Staff review trending positive. Ava set the phone face down. For her, this was never about reputation. It was about recalibration. She turned to the window. The city flowed past. Faces, stories, strangers. Each one unaware they'd just witnessed a silent shift in what power looked like. A small girl crossing the street caught Ava's attention. Dark-skinned, wearing her mother's oversized blazer, pretending to talk into an invisible phone. Her mother laughed softly, pulling her along. Ava smiled faintly. She whispered, almost to the glass. One day you won't have to prove anything. You'll just walk in. The car merged into the avenue, swallowed by the afternoon glare. Back at the bank, the gold letters over the door gleamed again. Not as decoration, but as a challenge. Integrity, trust, excellence. Now they meant something. And in homes, offices and comment sections around the world, people replayed the moment when justice didn't shout, didn't rage. It simply walked in, stood still, and waited for the truth to expose itself. She didn't demand respect, one commenter wrote. She reminded everyone what it looks like. Ava Sinclair's name trended for 3 hours. Her silence lasted forever.